this dropped at like 6:30
Yeah.
or something on Friday, and it's not like it was a bad story from the Giants standpoint, but it was weird timing for the announcement of it.
Yeah, to get that news that Jason Garrett was going to be the offensive coordinator for Judge Joe Brown in New York, and it was just kind of weird that wouldn't you try to maybe you hold off until Monday, and then I don't even know if they've planned a press conference yet or anything. I haven't seen anything.
He talked today.
Oh, did he today?
He talked today. Yes.
I'm sure it was thrilling.
Yeah, it was with the team's official podcast. So that's how they're releasing data these days, which, you know what? That's not a bad idea. I haven't heard of any teams doing that, though.
It's going to go more to that teams are going to control it.
You walk into a little room. It's you and Mickey or, whatever their Mickey Spagnola guy is. And, you're lobbed a bunch of softballs and then you move on because he will be eviscerated by the local media once he does get up there and have to actually face them. But we've talked about this a ton, where I got no ill will toward Jason Garrett. Do I think that he needed to be here another day, another minute longer? No, none of us did.
No.
It was just time for an exit, but I got nothing against the guy. And I hope that he has fun.
Seems like a good dude.
Yeah, I hope he has fun. I hope he has success wherever he goes. I do find it hilarious and incredibly entertaining and incredibly lucky on our part that this is where he ended up, right? If you had to have him go somewhere...
That we now get to play him 2 times a year?
Yes!
Anywhere in the division, but New York, yeah, it's great.
He's still part of our scene. And, he's really highly thought of across the league. Is he thought of enough to where someone was going to take an immediate, stab at him as a head coach? Probably not yet. But Jason Garrett's going to be a head coach in this league again.
And we heard that they tried first, the Giants did while he was still under contract, and they were kind of dragging their feet, that they first reached out to the Cowboys about the head coaching job.
Yeah.
And then between then and a couple days later, they talked to Joe Judge, and they went with him.
Yeah. Judge Joe Judge, who also worked under Nick Saban, just like Jason Garrett did. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of their bond. He says he didn't know Joe very well, but he certainly knows that he was part of the Saban staff, and anybody that Nick Saban hires, he's got a lot of respect for. But I wonder how weird it is for Jason Garrett, who has been here essentially his whole adult life. A couple of years up in New York as a player coach, and then Miami under Saban, and then basically back here for a long time. He's been part of the Dallas landscape, and New York has always been the mortal enemy.
Yep.
Them, Philly, and Washington, and to just kind of to game plan for one team and then just kind of go to the place that you're supposed to hate forever, it's got to be strange.
And how weird will it be, at least in the first visit, when they come to the Death Star next year, for him to go to the visitors' locker room and do everything over there where for 10-plus years he was going to the home team and he was part of that scene, and now all of a sudden he's the enemy.
All I can think of is how geared up is he going to be to face the Cowboys twice next year.
You thought Cole Beasley was excited to play the Cowboys this year?
Don't be surprised if they lose one or both of those games.
This is my fear, is that he's been holding on to certain plays in that hockey folder like Dan McDowell has, and he's going to finally open it up and, okay, I'm not there anymore. Guess what? You get to see this, this, and this. And all of a sudden, he's going to open up his playbook now that he's not here.
He's got he has his secret Holy Grail page that's never been used before.
Hey, I've said this all through this process at the end of the season when we knew he was going to get canned, and it was evident that the Cowboys were not going to make the playoffs, and even if they did sneak in, they were going to get crushed in their first game. That, as much as people like to hate on him, as much as he got basically run out of town by the fans and their disappointment, what if he's a lot better than we realize, and the reason he wasn't able to flourish because of the regime that he played in and the fact that maybe his offensive brain was the creative offensive brain that may exist in there was just squelched by ownership, and he goes somewhere else and who knows? Like you said, opens up the bag of tricks, and it's like, where the hell was that when you were here? Well, Jerry wouldn't let me.
Well, and also, think about the guy he replaced in Wade Phillips. What does everybody say about him? Better coordinator than head coach.
Sure.
This could be Garrett's lot in life, that you're a better offensive coordinator than you'll ever be a head coach.
Yeah. And that may be it for him. Although I still think he gets another chance somewhere.
Yeah.
Especially if this works. And I think he is lucky because
I hope they whip out statues of liberty and center sneaks and
fumble rooskies,
all that stuff. And Cowboys are like, what is happening?
The jury's still out on their quarterback, obviously, but he seemed to show quite a bit of promise this year, you know?
Who, Danny?
Yeah, and they have a generational type running back,
Yep.
which you don't have to have. See Raheem Mostert last night.
Raheem Mostert.
But they do have that. You know, they've got a really, really good tight end. I think that they're probably short that dynamic, crazy good one receiver, but, you know, that can be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
But they have plenty to work with.
Did you see that rumor this weekend that Witten might follow him to New York and play?
I did.
I don't want that. Not that I want him to play here. I think it's time for just Witten to hang it up.
I
don't care if he plays.
No, I don't care if he plays.
He doesn't have anything left.
Yeah.
You know what, those guys, though, like, we always talk about how fans are much more invested in teams than the players are.
No doubt.
I think back in the day, it was a different story when there was no free agency and things like that. And you had, Charlie Waters played here, was not going to leave here. He still, bleeds silver and blue and all that. But for the most part, these guys are in and out of different organizations, and you may have one like Witten that sticks around forever. But in the end, if Jason wants to coach and the best opportunity for him is to go to New York or go to Philly, that star that he wore on his head for 15 years, that is ripped off in a nanosecond whenever it's time for him to go find a gig.
Oh, I absolutely see what you're saying with just the logic of it, but just as a fan.
Oh, it's weird.
Speaking from a fan's point, it's like seeing Joe Namath in a Rams uniform or Johnny Yu going to play for the Chargers in his last year. It's so weird to Emmett in a Cardinals uniform.
Yeah, it'd be weird. But if that's what he wants to do, then so be it. And my God, as much as he sounds like a coach right now, I would imagine that any team in the league would do backflips for 50 miles straight over glass to get Jason Witten somehow on their team. Yep. From a leadership standpoint, at the very least.
Yeah, I think he would bring. I know it would be kind of learning on the fly, but dude, that guy could. He knows a lot more, or he's forgotten a lot more football than a lot of people in those coaching positions know. And I can't believe McCarthy wouldn't think about maybe putting him on his staff just because he is this longtime Cowboy that's going to go into the Hall of Fame.
Boy, and I wonder too. Garrett's got where do they pick in this year's draft? They were 4-12 this year. They've got to be top 7 or something like that.
Another good pick.
I wonder what direction they'll go in if they try to bolster the offense, or they got a lot of holes to fill, so who knows. But I also think that you hire a guy like that there is a method to the madness where you think that, he can fill a particular role up here, obviously, and help our young quarterback out and blah, 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 call great plays. But don't think for a second, even though there's a totally different regime here, that they look at him and they're like, what do you know? It's one thing to be all excited about coming here and winning or whatever and playing your old team, but there's some sort of schematic thing going on here, too, where it's like, look, when we play these guys, the same guys are going to be there outside of 1, 2, 3 guys, something like that.
Yeah.
These guys. What are these guys' weaknesses? Yeah,
he's going to give them some sort of tactical advantage because he's going to be so up on all of the players that are here. Even though the roster will change a little bit, the big players that he knows will be here, and he can tell that to the defense. He can spread all that word.
Right, and it's like the first thing I thought of was Big Don Nelson when he went to Golden State, and Golden State kicked the living crap out of the Mavericks when they were an 8 seed and the Mavs were a 1 seed because he knew how to shut down that offense and he knew how to fluster Dirk.
Yep,
and sometimes when you have talent like the Cowboys do have, you can't stop it no matter what. But at the same time, you're digging around pretty deep to figure out ways to stop Amari Cooper and what's the best way to stop Zeke Elliott. He knows. He knows it all. What's the best way to fluster Dak? He knows.
Well, later in the season, you just play him. You don't really need a plan.
Well, yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, it's just, what I'm saying? I mean, he knows everything about every one of these guys, especially on offense.
What I'm saying is those guys just disappeared so much later in this past season, you may not have to really plan for it. Just show up.
Yeah. But, he's got knowledge.
I requested this time because I knew that I could count on you guys because you guys have older kids. Danny, how old's your son?
27.
27, and your kids are teenagers.
I had him when I was 12.
14 and 10.
14 and 10. So you've got one as a teenager and one on the way.
Right.
Well, I've got a 4-year-old going on 5 in May. And I need some advice because we're struggling right now.
I will say this. Everybody says that twos, the terrible twos, blah, blah, blah. This 3-4-year-old is...
Yes.
And I remember it. It's one of the few things that I clearly remember talking about is what are we going to do with this thing?
Yes.
With this demon.
That's all we heard, too, was, get ready, those terrible 2s. And 2 was like, fine.
Yeah.
3 was a little worse. 4 has been awful. It has been the worst. And it might be a little different for a girl than a guy, and I'm sure it is. For us, did your kid, when he was that age, either of you, did you have issues like getting him dressed for daycare / school, kindergarten? Like every day, it's gotten a little bit better, but every day it is this huge task because she picks something out. I get it. No, I don't want to wear that. I get something else. No, I want to wear the thing we had before. It's just
that's a girl thing.
Oh,
boys, you could put on a barrel and a colander and they're fine.
It just got to the point with Josh that just wear whatever you want. Pick something. I don't care.
Like,
I mean, he'd come up with some pretty insane ensembles.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And there would also come times where one of them, our youngest especially, he would come downstairs and he doesn't understand the concept of matching. And he doesn't care.
Yeah.
And
like his dad.
Right. More credit, more power to him for knowing that.
Yeah.
Or not knowing that. But he would come down with...
like skis and a codpiece.
Orange knee-high socks.
Yeah.
Khaki pants. And I mean, just stuff that mixed, matched everywhere.
Just finding whatever.
Yeah.
Oven mitts.
Yeah.
We had... Actually, this morning, it was the first time we've allowed her to go in there and do that. And she came up with some ensemble that was just so mismatched. But I'm like, okay, that's going to be my next choice is just say, go get it.
Yeah.
Because whenever I pick it, you don't want it. And then we had this huge fight.
My recommendation would be to limit her choices.
We've done,
let her pick.
Yeah, we've taken a ton of clothes out of her closet just to make it easier.
Is she like all girls that age? Is she kind of like into princessy stuff?
Yeah, princess and unicorns.
Yeah, God, it's unbelievable how stereotyped the girls are at that age.
It is weird.
You rarely come across any of them that aren't into that. You're that way, probably.
But, I was going to say, the thing is, whatever you pick, at least this is the way it was with me, whatever I picked for them to wear, they didn't like.
Yeah.
Mom could pick it out. They could pick it out, but if I picked it out, Dad, I would never wear that.
I wish it was that simple, but it seems like whatever I pick out or my wife, both of us, she wants nothing to do with it.
You know what you ought to do is the night before you lay out.
We've tried that.
And it doesn't work. Lay out 2 or 3 things. Say you have to pick.
She picks it, and by the next morning, she doesn't want to wear that. And we're just like, well, why did you pick it last night?
She has the right to change her mind, and she doesn't need to be told what to wear by some man.
Yes, and she is expressing that daily.
Weird man.
Yeah,
some giant man that lives in my house.
So again, it's getting a little bit better. It seems it's we've talked to some people and we've figured out a few things, and hasn't been as bad, but it's still been a struggle in the last few weeks. What about skid marks? Because it's just, and before I even...
Are you talking about yourself?
Not myself.
That's a
it's
nice
just getting
segue.
worse and worse.
Not myself.
My lovely princess unicorn daughter.
Oh, and
what's the deal with her skid marks?
I didn't tell my wife what I was going to bring up today, and as I was going through the kitchen, and she has to go out into the garage where our washer and dryer are at, and I heard her from out there go, when is she going to stop leaving the skid marks?
Yeah. That is, maybe
time.
23?
Oh, God.
23 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
For a guy?
Or 53, I don't know.
I know, it's tough.
I hope it's sooner for a girl, because that's going to be problems.
Yeah.
She's not going to want to live with that.
No.
And she'll realize it sooner or later. But, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I remember we would walk... The amount of underwear that we threw away.
Yes.
It's unbelievable. Where you're just like, no, thank you.
Have you ever had to throw away a pair of your own underwear at the ticket?
At the ticket?
Here?
Yeah.
One of the,
No. Have you?
I don't remember.
He was asking for a friend.
Let's dig through this trash can and find out.
No, it'd be in the men's room. I wouldn't do it in here.
Yeah, you drop it next to Tom Gribble's Nighthawk dinner.
Like I've got some technique where I can take my underwear off without removing my pants like the girls with the bra.
Right.
No, it's just, this is just.
It's so gross. Do you throw them away? We throw them,
It-
and they may be more expensive than boys' underwear. You could buy those 12 packs of boys' underwear for nothing.
It's kind of a 50-50 proposition. It depends on how skid marky the skid mark is.
At some point, they don't belong with other clothes.
If it's more Hershey's Kiss than skid mark.
I mean, you might as well be doing laundry in the toilet.
Is she not wiping properly, or is she making?
That's just no kid does.
Making mud midday.
I think it's when she's at her daycare that she just waits too long, and by the time she is finally to the point where she goes potty, she's fouled her underwear.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yes, and it's
like Norm.
Yes, like Norm.
Mm-hmm. We're all headed there.
Yeah. Oh man, it's
Great.
I hope you record this and play it back for her.
Yes,
when she's
I am.
Like 16.
I'm going to.
No, God, no. She will hate you forever.
At her, yes, when she gets married,
At her
this is coming out.
quinceanera.
Yeah,
Her bar mitzvah.
yeah, it's
Are you
coming
guys
out sometime.
Mexican or Jewish?
Yes.
I always forget.
But no, it's just overall. I hear talking about the terrible 2s being so bad and 3, those aren't bad. 4 is bad, but then I've heard, and this could be just girls, that around 5, maybe it gets a little better.
Yeah, I think so. I think it does, and then it'll get
Then
worse again when
then
they're
it
like 12 or
yes.
13, and then
Yes.
you'll have hell on wheels for a couple 3 years.
Yeah, we've heard that from people that have daughters that, and do you think this is bad now? Wait till they're 13.
Let me just tell you this, and I just had this conversation this weekend with another friend. There are 2 things that are landmark moments of parenting. That the potty training, the terrible 2s, the 4s, whatever, all of that kind of will go away, and there will be 2 things that you remember more than anything else that are landmarkish.
Okay.
One, when your child is able to swim, meaning not just swim, but able to get out of any body of water without you having to assist them, that you take the danger out of that.
That they're at a point where if you happen to
that's
look away,
huge.
you don't have to always be worried.
Exactly.
About it. Okay.
Where they can get out of water themselves. The next is when you don't have to have a babysitter.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they're old enough that they're not going to kill themselves or burn the house down.
Exactly.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they could.
I would encourage you, that I know these times are difficult, raising a toddler and a kindergartner and all that. You keep wanting them to get through these phases and get older. Relish these moments,
I know.
even though they're kind of a pain in the butt, because eventually they'll get to an age where they never call you unless something bad happens or they need money.
Right. It's the 2 phone calls.
So at least, you're getting to interact with your kid, even though she craps her pants every day. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, I feel bad sometimes when it's a struggle to put her to bed too, and it's like, and I go in, I'm the last one in there to kind of sit with her until she goes to sleep, and I'll walk in, and I've said this to my wife a couple of times. It's like, I should be enjoying this. I know. I should,
and nobody does,
but I don't. I'm like, I'm so frustrated that she just wants to, chatter and chatter. I'm like, you need to go to bed, and she just wants to talk, and I'm like, I'm trying to enjoy it, but in the moment, it's tough.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take these words of wisdom and move forward.
Yeah.
I don't think we helped
don't
at
have
all.
very
I don't know if
many
you did
at
or
all.
not, but it's nice to hear.
Russell may have.
I'll have to go talk to Russell.
We were talking about Ozzy Osbourne the other day because it was the anniversary of Ozzy biting the head off a bat back in the early 80s.
What city was that in?
Des Moines.
Yep.
Yeah.
Iowa.
Okay. Because for some reason I always associated it with him teaching on the Alamo.
He did that a few months later. I believe.
Yeah, they all kind of run together. But I told Danny at the time, I was like, you know what? He scared me as a kid. Like that story frightened me. That's not normal.
Right.
And when you're a little kid, and especially when you're raised in a Christian family,
a God-fearing family.
yes, and somebody does that, which at the time, if you went to any church, Sunday school, or whatever, the story would be told that he was doing that as an affront to God.
Yeah, that's the height of evil.
Right, that he was doing that to worship Satan.
Even though Ozzy's solo stuff was like super cheesecake metal.
Dude.
Yeah, but it was still all of the imagery and all the
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was like it was like the precursor to glam.
Yeah, maybe somewhat.
Whatever.
It was pretty heavy though. It still had a certain darkness to it.
Yeah.
I was at the very edge of being scared of things. That was like when I was 12 or 13, and that went away pretty quickly. Once I started getting into music and things like that, whatever, Ozzy, idiot. He didn't scare me. But it did make me think of people that I was genuinely scared of as a kid. Now, let me set this up by saying I used to have nightmares, like hardcore nightmares, and it was the same one. It was a recurring theme where I was being chased. And it was always me running. So, like, imagine like a construction site with those big beams.
Like across the
that
street.
Yeah, that are, templates for a building. It was a series of beams that I would be running on.
Like how high off the ground?
Oh, 50, 100 feet, something like that.
Okay, so way up there.
Yeah. And someone was chasing me. And it would be different people, but I would always be being chased by, a certain group of people. And I would have this dream. I would wake up sweating. I would go to bed, right away. Same thing would happen. Same dream would pop up. And after like 3 or 4 times, I had to go to my parents' room because I was scared to death and crying and all this. That was my nightmare. So there were people, though, beyond Ozzy Osbourne that truly scared me.
Well,
some
who was
fictional,
chasing you in the dream?
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
There were multiple people. Some fictional, some real. Now, at the very, very top of this list, Mino, you will find a guy that I promise you, to this day, I can't really look at the actual videos that are out there because he freaks me out so much. Do you recognize this voice?
Else can begin. Beg you, don't fail to follow my advice. You'll be sorry. You'll be sorry. That we do it and that they do it. Must trust you. You have to step across. We used to think this world's not our home. Well, it sure isn't.
That is the last speech Jim Jones ever made.
Right before the Kool-Aid?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and if you've ever heard the term drink the Kool-Aid, that comes from Jim Jones down in Guyana where he took his flock. He was a so-called preacher, and he had this commune down there, and after he killed a couple of politicians and reporters that were coming down there to investigate him from California, he killed everybody by having them drink poisonous Kool-Aid.
Right, the feds were coming. The government was coming to the commune and
to kill them all.
And so before they could get there,
right,
he said we need to sacrifice ourselves.
Right, and I can't remember how many people it was.
It
but
was
hundreds.
Like in the high amount of hundreds, I believe.
Yeah.
Men,
kids,
women, and children.
And he was saying, if you do it, they'll do it. The
Tons
kids.
of children.
Yeah, you can hear the kids in the background.
Yep. He made the moms use syringes on babies to squirt it into their mouth.
Oh, my God, dude. So, anyway.
So Jim Jones is chasing you on a girder.
And he was always wearing those sunglasses.
Was he wearing a hard hat?
And a white suit.
Was he being safe?
Dude, it was horrific. And the thing is, why, as an 8-year-old, did I know who Jim Jones was?
It was on the news all the time, and that's what grown-ups were talking about.
And I think my parents let me watch the movie.
The Guyana
Jim
tragedy?
Jones, yeah. Starring Stacy Keach or Powers Booth or one of them.
Powers Booth, and he was great.
Yeah, I think I watched that as a second grader.
Same here.
Dude.
It was terrifying.
Davey, my parents, whatever they watched on TV, because TV wasn't, it's not like it is today where it's all fragmented and is that rated R? If it was on TV, that meant it was okay.
Right.
Movies were bad. TV was good.
I was very sheltered.
TV was for the whole family.
Yeah, it was. And so whatever was
and you
on.
maybe had one or two in the house at that time.
Right,
True.
right. And so that was one of the things that I watched. And dude, Jim Jones to this day freaks me out. Now, there's a few that are funny. Now, these all of these are around the same time, 8 years old, that I was heavily affected by it. And I remember one Friday night, I saw this video, and this guy freaked me out. Now, imagine this guy chasing you on construction beams in the middle of the night.
You were afraid of Rod Stewart? That's weird.
Was it just his hair?
In the pants?
It was the hair, yes. If you watch this video, you tell me if you're not creeped out by Rod Stewart.
It's real creepy.
Dude, he's weird. And he's always looking into the camera. And yeah, he's got this David Coverdale hair that nobody else had back then.
It's a razor shag, bro. It's what we all wanted.
And he had this real angular, pointy nose, and
real feminine.
And he was trying to work this girl at the bar.
He looks like a witch.
Yeah, he does. And I knew that this song too, that it wasn't right.
You knew it had to do with
it had some
sex.
overtones that you didn't understand.
Right. And I just thought of him as being that way, as like there's something wrong with this guy. He's not right.
Like, this girl needs to get away from him.
Right.
Somebody save her.
Right. A fictional character that really got to me.
Stewart.
Yeah, Rod Stewart chased me. I didn't know who he was.
All right. Who else?
I wasn't a fan of the faces.
I was gonna ask if you were into the faces.
No, I didn't know anything. A fictional character who got to me, and got to me good. I saw Moonraker in 1978.
Mark.
Okay. Again, my parents took me to see a James Bond movie.
Yeah.
Do you remember who the villain was in Moonraker?
Andre the Giant.
Odd Job.
Jaws.
Yeah.
Richard Kiel, who probably the last thing I saw him in was
the
Happy.
Metal Mouth, right?
Yes, the metal mouth of Jaws. This guy, for those who hadn't seen it, was about 7 feet tall, and as a Bond villain, I mean, he was 2 feet taller than James Bond, and his teeth were made of steel. As an 8-year-old dude,
Okay, that's fine. I get that. That dude would freak me out too.
Yeah,
I never saw Moonraker. But
it was James Bond in space.
I'm still miffed by Rod Stewart.
It's the sex thing, too. Something, if you want my body and you think I'm sexy and he's looking at you weird and he's got a little makeup on.
You're wondering, might I be gay?
Well, that's the thing, too. I was not comfortable with any of that stuff.
Did it
growing
move?
up in a Christian family where you knew, like, this guy's weird. He's really weird. There was one other rock star. Now, what other rock star of the same ilk would freak you out?
David Bowie.
David Bowie.
And the Diamond Dogs album cover.
100%.
Scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
One of my friend's older brothers had the album, and you can look it up right now on your phone.
I've seen it.
He's a dog, Dave.
Dude,
Yep.
that's not right.
He's David Minpincher.
And then I saw him. The only thing that got me over the hump with David Bowie was seeing him do the Little Drummer Boy with Bing Crosby. Now, do you remember that video that happened in the late 70s?
Yeah, and then he turned around and did Dancing in the Streets with Mick Jagger.
Yeah, and that made everything better.
And Dark Crystal.
Right. But, Vader freaked me out, obviously, but nothing like those guys. So I was being chased by David Bowie as a dog. No lie. As a dog.
Yeah.
Rod Stewart.
And he was kind of like a greyhound, so he would be trucking down that girder.
Rod Stewart with makeup and leather pants and witch head. Richard Kiel and Jim Jones.
That needs to be like on a Mount Rushmore.
I know.
Of Corby's fears.
They scared me to death.
I had two, and they were Kiss, the band, when I was little.
See, because you didn't know. That didn't make sense. That wasn't right.
No, I didn't understand it, and they looked like they were coming to get me. And then the Nightmares, I would always have nightmares after I saw this particular episode on TV. Bigfoot from the $6 Million Man.
Which turned out to be Andre the Giant.
Yes, who was a robot. And I think Lee Majors ripped off his arm and beat him with it.
That was the most half-ass Bigfoot.
Yeah, but
too.
it was
I know.
it scared me. I had nightmares where I'd wake up in my nightmare and he would be standing in my doorway watching me sleep.
Yeah. Now, one other nightmare that I know that I had was I was in kindergarten, and I was spending the night. It was probably one of the first times I ever spent the night with a friend. And the parents let us watch the original Frankenstein. Like
Old
from
black and white one?
1935
Yeah.
or something. And then I woke up in the middle of the night screaming that he was in the room, and they let me get in bed with him, and then I wet their bed.
And you were never invited back.
No, I was not.
DEATH. What does that spell? Death, 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 death.
Well, we had a notable death in the world of rock and roll last week, and Danny was not here to discuss this, and we certainly needed his expertise to discuss this because Neil Peart, the noted drummer for the rock and roll band Rush, died last week at the age of 67 after 3 years of fighting a brain tumor that he and his family and the rock and roll world and that band kept a secret.
There's a documentary that came out a few years back on them, and it talked about, put this back on here, it talked about how Rush had decided that they were no longer going to tour, that they might do one-off shows here and there, but Neil referred to his, I guess, orthopedic situation as being a big contributor to that because, as he said in this documentary, he said, when we wrote these songs, I was a young man, and they're very hard songs to play. They're very difficult to play, and he just got to the point where he couldn't physically play the difficult drum parts that he had written night after night after night on tour. So they stopped touring, but nobody except people that were in his inner circle had any idea that he was battling brain cancer and had been for 3 years.
Let's play a couple of clips and then.
But the reason I say that is I wonder if it was more the fact that they stopped touring had to do with more than him just saying, "Well, it's just because I can't physically do it anymore." I think it was he knew that he had a fight ahead of him.
Yeah, a big one.
Yeah.
Let's play a couple of cuts from Neil, and then we can talk about him a little bit. This, of course, the
drummer from Rush.
Yeah, the drummer from Rush, and this is the big drum part in the famous song Tom Sawyer. Pretty badass still.
Yeah.
And you take it for granted after hearing it 55,000 times. If you were around in the 80s and listened to any type of rock and roll radio, you heard that song every day, multiple times.
Well, if you were around when that song first came out and you heard it for the first time, and maybe that was your first exposure to Rush, which it was for me. I didn't know anything about them before Moving Pictures. Nothing. And you heard that on the Zoo or Q102. It was, what was that?
Yeah.
Who is that playing drums?
Well, you guys told me to look up the drum part, and I'm like, the whole thing is good. Like, how do I pick just 15, 20 seconds?
Well, that's the most famous part of it. And how old, or was it, did it take a month after you heard Tom Sawyer, 6 months before? And it was, the things, we didn't have the internet back then, but word traveled fast when it came to certain standards in music or film or whatever. And anytime you mention who's the best drummer of all time, it's him.
Yeah.
And I knew like 2 songs from him at that point. But, oh, yeah.
He's the greatest drummer that ever lived, bro.
And it always came from older brothers,
Mm-hmm.
of classmates or whatever who would tell you, like, oh, there's just no comparison. He's just the greatest thing ever. And then you would look up and you would see pictures and you would see videos of his kit, which
was an enormity.
I mean, yeah, it looked like a house.
Yeah, like our drummer plays with like a 4-piece kit. His is like 63 pieces.
Yes.
With rototoms and bongos and kungas and
it's unbelievable.
Bells and gongs, and it's ridiculous. Thank you. There's Neil.
I finally saw him live a handful of years ago, and I'm not a big fan of Rush.
I was huge when I was a kid. When I discovered them, my buddy became a bigger fan, and he was a bass player, a wannabe bass player at the time, so he really loved Geddy Lee, and he played him all the time, and we listened to a lot of Rush together after that. And then when I went to college, a couple of guys that I hung out with, we would always eat together, and they brought me into there was life before moving pictures, dude. You need to go listen to Fly By Night and 2112 and some of their earlier records. But yeah, I became pretty dorky when it came to Rush, and the thing that's funny is he's considered one of the greatest rock drummers in the entire world, but he wasn't even a founding member of the band.
No, so he gets called in. They need a replacement drummer because their drummer flew the coop, and
they just decided he didn't want to do it anymore. Didn't want to tour.
God, and the band was so blown away by him. He's hired right there on the spot, and then he was like, I write lyrics too, and how difficult must it be for a guy to come in to a band like that was semi-established and not only say, hey, I write lyrics. Okay, little buddy, that's real nice. Now go sit in the corner. But for it actually to come to fruition, and he was their primary lyricist.
He wrote the lyrics, and Geddy and Alex wrote the music.
Wow.
And a very mindful writer. I've read one of his books, and he's written several novels. I think this one may be one or 2 autobiographical ones, but it was an autobiographical story, pretty long, and it talked about his journey grieving the loss of his wife and daughter. His daughter died in a car accident, I believe, when she was in
20
college,
or 21, yeah.
And then not long after that, or one after the other, he lost his wife and daughter in tragic ways within a year.
Yeah.
And this book is about him taking a solo journey on his motorcycle and essentially riding his bike all across America, Canada, Mexico, South America, and that's how he dealt with his grief of losing his family. And it's really well written. It's not just like, band guy writes book, ghostwriter. No, if he were taken more seriously, and I think he probably isn't as a writer because he's a drummer in a band, and you probably don't give him the benefit to actually read his stuff. But if you do, and you separate the fact that he's a musician and read his writings just as a novelist, he's a phenomenal writer.
Yeah, and I didn't know this at the time that he was the lyricist, but this was the first Rush song, fellers back there, that really got to me, Closer to the Heart.
No,
that's YYZ.
That's YYZ.
The other one.
There you go.
There you go. It's all very mythological.
Yeah.
And the men who hold high places must be the ones who start to mold a new reality closer to the heart, closer to the heart. Blacksmith and the artist reflected in their art. They forge their creativity closer to the heart. Yes, closer to the heart.
Mike hated this song and referred to it as Closer to the Fart. But as a kid, it stuck with me, and I thought this was very descriptive.
And thinking, man.
Yeah, oh, totally. And I was probably suckered in as a 15-year-old kid, but it was very Scarborough Fair sounding, you know, and
bells.
Yeah, I always loved it though.
You said you saw that. You remember what tour you saw them on? And and you seen them one time?
One time
okay.
at the American Airlines Center. It was probably 10 years ago, something like that. It was one of their last tours, and they were playing one of their records in full in its entirety. I don't know which one.
It may have been. I don't know if they did a Signals tour, but I saw them at Starplex with all of Slobberbone because they're all Brent Best is a huge Rush geek, and we all went together and saw them, and it was on the Moving Pictures tour where they did all the Moving Pictures, and it was phenomenal. Well, they were perfect.
And I don't know about you, but
there were 6 girls in the entire show.
It was almost like seeing Van Halen, and all I wanted to look at was Eddie Van Halen play guitar. All I wanted to do was watch Neil Peart play drums.
Yeah, and you want to watch him and Geddy for sure.
Yeah. And in that respect, it was awesome, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because this guy, as much of a titan as he was, man, I never saw him interviewed. I never saw him do any circuit of talk shows. Or not that you would for a drummer, but, I mean, they were so, there were movies based around recently about the nerd fandom of Rush and how much it meant to these people. And, I mean, their legion of fans are the most loyal out there. And, that's a huge band.
It was a huge band to a lot of people. And there was a lot of people that when they heard this news, this was Friday, correct?
1 week ago today. But they didn't get announced until a couple days after,
Okay. There was a lot of people that were really, really devastated and had no connection to this human being other than the records.
Yeah.
I talked to somebody, I texted somebody, a really close friend of mine. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but a very good musician, and I found out about this, and I texted him. I was like, holy crap, Neil Peart's dead. And he couldn't believe it, and he told me later, he goes, I spent a small portion of my afternoon crying.
Really?
He's a grown man in his 40s. But if you grew up with them and you were connected to them, they meant something. They meant something to you. It was just, and it's not like, for like Led Zeppelin for us. We didn't grow up like loving them when they were putting out albums.
No.
We did with them.
Little known ticket fact, I had no idea until he died, but Matt Birmingham, who does our Top 10 show, came in the studio and goes, I've seen him 3 times. And Matt's like 14 years old, and I'm like, you have? His dad was a huge fan.
Okay. Well, his dad's our age, probably.
Probably so. He's seen them multiple times. He's been on their bus. I believe he said he has shaken hands with Neil Peart before. Like, this is a huge deal for him.
Yeah.
So much so that he wants to play a song at Ticket Stock.
You said you're signed up to be Geddy Lee on vocals, right?
I think.
Okay,
yes.
I think I'm signed up to do Geddy Lee on bass, but Birmingham is a really good drummer and says he can play this particular song and wants to do it at Ticket Stock. So I'll sit down and borrow somebody's Rickenbacker and see if I can still play this stuff, but
that's awesome.
Might be a special treat in honor of Neil at Ticket Stock this year.
All right, there you go. There's a little trifecta for you to get the year started.
As you well know, your friend and coworker Mike Rhyner retired recently.
He did.
Okay?
He did.
Whoa!
I know. And a lot of people are trying to capitalize in a lot of different ways on this. I was kind of shocked to learn this.
Right,
I mean, whether it be TV appearances or articles or the news or podcasts, everyone's like, oh, let's get him to talk about it, And at least those are authorized, and those are things that he chooses to do, decides to do, that's fine. But frankly, there's an underworld of people trying to capitalize.
Is this like the dark, deep internet?
I did go very deep in the internet to stumble upon these products.
Okay.
And I'm not happy about them. There's 2 of them.
Okay.
And I think we'll just play the first and let it kind of speak for itself.
Okay.
The following is an exclusive offer from the Laser Private Collection of Luxury Items. we're proud to present our limited edition commemorative plate celebrating the treasured moment when Mike Rhyner's nutsack revealed itself while broadcasting. The exquisite detail on this fine porcelain collectible will delight visitors to your home, much like the Radio Hall of Famer himself delighted colleagues with his quail eggs. These keepsakes are extremely limited, handcrafted by French artisanal monks using forbidden techniques. So act now to secure one of these keepsakes for your family. The Mike Rhyner's Nutsack commemorative plate is guaranteed to hold its value better than gold. And what better Easter gift for grandmother to display near her husband's ashes? You could say, "Here, put this in your hutch, bitch." These keepsakes are in extremely short supply, so act now. Because when Laser closes the doors to their private collection, they're closed for eternity.
Yo, this is Bruce from Laser, and I is confirming this plate is super badass for eating caviar off it or just looking at it. So go empty your bank account and buy up like 500 of these. Peace.
It's so
It's
weird.
pathetic, isn't it?
Oh my God.
Did he sign off on this?
I don't think he's making $1 from this, frankly.
It's
commemorative.
Makes me sick.
Commemorative nutsack plate.
Yeah, for you to celebrate his quail eggs.
You might want to explain who Laser is.
Does it need to be?
They're world famous.
They are.
Yeah,
they
that's
are.
true.
They're a global enterprise.
They're from Arlington, and they love the Mavs. And they have a guy with a TV
No.
for a head and a bird on its shoulder.
They're from Rhineland,
Okay.
and they're very German.
Wow, that
Oh my
is.
God, that's funny.
And they're using forbidden techniques for this plate.
Yeah, from monks.
Yeah.
Wow.
What makes their techniques forbidden?
I don't know, but I think Mike should know about that. It sounds a lot like Trumpy Bear or things like that.
Right.
Probably Trump's not making a nickel off of, but they're using his likeness in whatever way.
Yeah, that's kind of the impression I get. That's why I wanted to bring it to everyone's
Well,
attention.
thank you for doing that.
Not
We'll have to alert
not
Mike.
to actually sell any product. I don't want that. I just want the word to get out.
Right.
That this scum is trying to capitalize. And I guess the plate wasn't enough.
Empty your bank account
frankly.
and buy like 500 of these. Okay, that's not the only one then.
The
that
plate,
you found.
The plate was not enough. There was something else, and this is an even far more ambitious project. It's not simply a plate. And I imagine this one's expensive as hell. Like, I don't even know. But it's actually like a full-size operational Mike Rhyner robot, I believe.
Oh.
That if you don't have the real Mike Rhyner in your life anymore, they're, I guess, offering an alternative, and it's just sick.
Okay.
From the company who brought you premium collectibles like the Danny Bayless Mud Medallion and the Mike Rhyner's Nutsack commemorative plate comes the crown jewel of the Laser Private Collection.
Laser.
Now available for you to legally own for the first and only time through this exclusive offer. That's right. For a limited time only, the duration of which we will never specify, the Rhinesbot 4000 is yours to possess at an incredible price only a true fan of the X-Sidekicks play-by-play personality could appreciate. But just what is a Rhinesbot 4000? Unlike some other mechanized mics on the market, this life-size luxury replica
Others?
Michael utilizes fine crystalline spectacles made by other premium robots when reading you the time off the friendly mercantile to start each afternoon. Want the tip of your penis adorned with nail polish? Of course you do. And only the Rhinesbot 4000 produces perfect results every time, utilizing really nice paints and only the highest quality brushes in the robot penis art industry today. But that's not all. When the sun goes down, the Rhinesbot 4000 is just getting started as your former Felix Shredder turned personal assistant. Get ready to rock out with a computerized AI wolf slave as you embark on a rousing ride around town on his luxurious tail, which doubles as an electric scooter. You'll find being ferried to all manner of fun, frivolity, and food units scattered hither and yon the perfect way to signal to your community that you are significantly harder and much more wealthy than they. Finally, end your night with the Rhinesbot 4000, reminding you in its gruff yet dulcet tones that you are its whore. All the while, puncturing you at a rapid pace.
Thank you.
Did I mention that its robot daughter also hates corn? Well, she does. As you'll no doubt learn during your nightly bedtime stories, Rhynesbot delivers after tucking you in with a level of precision only a non-human being with digital circuitry for brains can provide. No one would ever not want to receive this rare and priceless heirloom that has yet to be manufactured.
Right.
So call now via fax machine to lock in your rate tonight and have your Rhynesbot 4000 delivered just in time for President's Day. You may not be able to own the real Mike Rhyner, but you can have an immortal facsimile of the legendary reporter and media pioneer rendered in space-age polymer plastics and military-grade alloy. Rhynesbot continuously stands mere inches away from you, offering wisdom, security, and electronic covers of Tom Petty cover songs. Get yours in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're done.
Yo, what up, fam? This your boy Hamel from Laser. When I is not making raps with the latest stars of music, I is finding you the finest collectibles across the globe. Please purchase and enjoy this luxury item, which comes complete with my official Sneaky Sneak endorsement. Like that?
Oh my God. I want to be
sad, isn't it?
I want to be tucked into bed at night with precision.
Wait, it's yet to be manufactured.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a GoFundMe.
So you order it and then they'll make it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
with their precious,
with the promise of all this stuff getting done,
plastics and metal alloys.
Like, will you have the space age polymers in time?
Right.
For President's Day.
The level of confusing descriptors is off the charts on those.
Insane,
I love
dude.
those
That
guys.
is so great.
Well, I'm sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry to for Mike to find out that these people are using his name and apparently his entire body
for profit.
For profit.
Oh, that is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mikey texted a couple of days ago, and he said, because we've been talking about this for the last 2 weeks, we need to see Parasite, we need to see Parasite, we need to see Parasite.
And this movie, typically there's one of these every year, and for whatever reason, it's the outlier. It's the one that you just kind of dismiss, and you don't go see it.
I know.
And this year, the buzz around this thing and the people that I've trusted that have seen it and recommended it, I couldn't miss this film.
Well, Mikey sent us a text and said, let's see this. Let's do it on Thursday. We both said yes. It gave us an excuse to watch it finally. And that we did. And if you're not familiar with it, it's very confusing to say that this is a South Korean movie that is obviously subtitled. It has been a huge player at the award shows. Most recently at the SAG Awards, winning Best Cast, which I believe is the first for a foreign language film. And it is a dark, comedic thriller set in modern times in South Korea. And it deals with one family who is a family of grifters, kind of imposing their will and running their game on a rich family. And man, I can see, I don't know if this is my favorite movie of the year, but it sure as hell, if it's not, it's top 2. And I haven't seen 1917 yet. And I have a feeling that's going to win because it has everything that
the whole normal recipe.
Yeah, that
but
Academy
I think
voters
this movie is freaking people out in a different way. Like, I said it before I saw it when I did the show with you guys last time, I think this is going to win the Best Picture because I think it's so good and it's so different. War movies always do very well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, every other nominee is sort of a movie.
Yeah.
An idea that we've seen or heard before, I guess. Maybe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood isn't. It's a pretty weird one. But, man, this thing is just, I feel like, in a different category. Literally being that it's South Korean, but everything about it, because it's a foreign film, just feels and looks different. And I think they want to reward this damn thing with the big one.
After the film, it felt like I had just watched a movie created by the Korean Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
It's got that kind of feel
I love
to
that.
It's a horror movie for sure. And, you know, like if you saw the movie Us, it's got those elements of halfway through the movie, things shift into sheer terror.
Well, you mean a thriller, not a horror movie.
It's
definitely not a horror movie.
No. But it does.
Boy, it
does take a turn.
But I laughed like crazy. It's kind of like a two-piece movie too. Like the first half is very fun.
Yeah.
Very fast-paced, and you almost forget that you're reading subtitles, and that's how those good movies go usually. Anyway,
I laughed. There was a laugh out loud moment, and it's weird to have a comedy that's subtitled because you're laughing at what you read, basically. But there was one laugh out loud moment. I don't know if you guys found this subtly funny, brilliant, but they kind of, one by one, this family member becomes part of this other family.
As far as employees of theirs.
Yes. And they're lying to them as far as what their resume is, but they infiltrate this family.
They present themselves as unrelated individuals, too.
Yes, they do.
Like they don't know each other at all.
And there's this one guy who's teaching the daughter, the rich family daughter, English. The sister ends up teaching the spoiled son art. And as the mother of the rich family is showing the brother from the grifter family her son's art projects, and she was like, take a look at this. This is one of his pieces. The kid's like 9, and the brother's looking at it, just trying to play himself off as some art expert. He was like, interesting, very metaphorical, and that's a chimpanzee, right? And she goes, no, it's a self-portrait. And he goes,
and he's like,
aha.
He's just on a different level.
Yes.
Brilliant. Yeah, that was in one of the trailers. So
it was?
Yeah, they'd already spoiled that joke for me.
Okay, man. It is so well done. And again, you're seeing a movie that you think is going in one direction. For me, not having read any reviews, I just knew it was about a couple of families whose lives intertwined in Korea. It's taking a certain direction, and you're very happy with it. I was like, wow, this is so smart. And this family, one by one, is taking over this other family. And you're happy with it, and it's fun, and you laugh. And, dude, a door opens, and suddenly you're...
Literally.
Yes, you are thrust into another plot line, another movie, and it is, like you said, a white-knuckle ride.
And there's no foreshadowing anywhere to lead you to this point in the film about halfway through where the door literally opens and you're in a whole nother world that you had no idea it was going to go there.
It felt like two movies, but I loved both of the movies.
Equally.
Yeah. And maybe equally.
Yeah.
Now, it was tense, and I caught myself, you may make fun of me, I did the hands over the eyes at one point. Not because I was scared, it was more like the tension of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, please don't. And I did the peek through the dang fingers. And I'm
puts
like,
his dog up over his face, and then kind of lowers
Simon
the dog.
Come.
And raises him back up.
The hair on his back, I can see half of it.
It's so funny, man. That's like my kids in any scary movie. They still, my little one especially, you see him over there on the couch covering his eyes and then kind of opening one.
I did it.
A little
and
bit.
It wasn't because I was scared. I was just tense, and I didn't want this guy or girl to get caught in the moment, basically. So Bong is the director.
Yeah.
And everything he does is kind of about class warfare. And did you guys see
really?
Snowpiercer?
No, but I want to watch everything this guy does.
I knew nothing about this guy going into this.
Yeah. I only have seen Snowpiercer of the movies that he's done.
I saw that one. It's great.
Do you guys have you?
No. But I will.
Do you know anything about it?
Nothing.
I mean, listen to this premise. If I pitched you this, Snowpiercer is about the world is frozen over for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And the only people alive are on this train that goes around the entire world. Okay?
Never stops.
It never stops. It can't stop moving or it'll freeze and everyone dies. But the train is separated into classes where all the rich people are at the front and the poor people are at the back, basically shoveling the coal or trying to keep the train going. A linear train, and then there's a war that basically happens on the train. It's just the most insane premise for a movie that when you watch it, it makes a little bit of sense.
So is this...
And you enjoy the hell out of. So that's always what he goes for, is he wants to shine light on the
rich
widening
poor,
gap between rich and poor.
Is this guy like the Tarantino of Korean film? Because my buddy, who I sent a note to, I'm like, have you seen this? And he was like, I haven't. I'm going to see it soon. He goes, but I'm way into Korean film. I was like, what? What does that even mean? And I guess it's a thing. I mean, maybe, is this guy like the guy? Bong?
I don't know if Bong is the guy there, or if he's considered like Tarantino there, or he's just has major movies that cross over to here, and that's why we are more aware of him. Because I caught myself watching this like, it's so good. How many other great South Korean movies are there that we're just not even hearing about because they didn't dip their head above the waterline that is required for us to find out about them in the United States? Like, is this twice as good as every? I doubt it. I bet there's great movies that are just beneath this one.
I will say this, based on that film, as a single man, I think I'd like to visit Seoul.
There's some pretty gals.
If that's a good representation of the breeding over there.
Jeez.
Wow.
Just saying.
Well, at least the super wealthy housewife, if that's what you... I think she's probably going to be hot in most nations.
Boy, and how about...
And she was.
So the house that they...
That house was amazing.
That's the coolest house I think I've ever seen. And that was part of it. You know, part of the brilliance of the movie is that these grifters end up finding this rich family, and they don't know what they're getting into as far as once they walk inside. But once you do walk inside this house, it's supposedly, according to the story, was done by this famous architect.
Yeah, this mid-century modern whiz.
Yeah, who built the house for himself. And that's kind of the basis for everything. But it was like they're walking you through that, you know, with the cameras. It's incredible. I mean, it's part of the movie, the architecture of that house.
No doubt.
I loved being in that house. Anytime they were in that house, I was so happy.
And it is. And
it's so cool to look at.
And like you were saying, Troy, like the juxtaposition of that house compared to where the poor grifters lived, which was basically...
squalor.
Yeah, it was.
Well, and it's...
the edge of a sewer.
They're down. I mean, they're down a hill, too.
Yeah.
And then this beautiful house is up the hill. So then they go to work. They literally walk up the hill. I mean, there's so much symbolism and everything. And then a rainstorm happens. At the rich house, they're watching this beautiful rainstorm and the lightning, like, oh, my God, it's so pretty out.
But they're on such high ground, it doesn't affect them.
And then at the poor house, it's flooded. And there's sewage floods.
And they got to go spend the night in the YMCA or something like that.
In a gym.
Yeah.
There's so much of that stuff that I don't even think I could have picked up on one viewing, you know? Like, it would just take multiple viewings. And you know how good movies like this, when they end, you just kind of sit there and like, what the hell just happened? 100% I got that with this one.
Absolutely.
I love the ending. There's an odd sort of an ending. I mean, it's a foreign film, so it feels different than a lot of the stuff that we get spoon-fed here. Certainly the Avengers and whatever Danny was ripping on earlier, which I totally agree. But this thing is different, and it translates, man. It works, and I love it.
Can it win?
The review that I read, the New York Times review afterwards today, and at the very beginning it says, midway through the brilliant and deeply unsettling Parasite. And I think that's the perfect way to describe it. It's brilliant and unsettling. I mean, it like
by
you
the
said,
end though, did you feel unsettled? Yeah, maybe I can see that.
Yeah, it's like, whoa.
I've never been to a kid's birthday party like that before.
No, that was a fun one, huh?
99% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Do you think it can win? Or do you think it will?
Oh, I think it can, for sure. I mean, look.
This is something, the fact that we're talking about it on an afternoon drive sports radio station, this is what the Oscar people love.
Yeah.
It's not so obtuse, obscure, that no one here has seen it. People in America are going to see this film.
Yeah,
just based on the buzz that it's getting.
And I think,
and it's holding steady as far as sales in theaters because the word of mouth continues. And hell, when you get nominated for the big boy, you have to keep it in theaters and keep it available.
The majority of human beings, though, let's be honest, that live here in the States, when they hear foreign language film and subtitled, they're immediately out.
Don't go to the movies to read.
They're out.
But that's going to affect ticket sales. I don't know if that's going to affect voting.
No. But we're promoting it as, who cares about the Oscars? We're promoting it. You need to go see this. And I swear, even half of our audience, no, I'm out. That's just their give up. You know, they want to go to a movie to relax and kick back or whatever. And you kind of got to focus a little bit.
I hear that. I don't seek out foreign film, but when one of them is on this level, and I loved Crouching Tiger, and that was subtitled, and I was like, wow, that was cool.
So is the last foreign language film to win the Roberto Benigni Life is Beautiful? Did he win Best Actor?
I think he won Best Actor.
That didn't win Best Picture, though.
I don't believe so.
But it was nominated. Maybe that's the last one that has created this type of buzz.
That
was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's this much, man. This one's got a cool buzz going and everyone, like you said, no one sees it and they're like, meh.
Dude, it's slick as hell, too.
Pretty.
The way that it's shot.
And the music is perfect.
Oh, yeah. It's all really, really cool and different.
People are asking, where do you see it? It's in theaters.
Yeah. Yeah, it was at Alamo. It's at the Draft House.
Yep. You can get it home, too, if you on your smart
I did
TV.
The whole Amazon thing.
You can't rent it. It's in that window where you have to buy it.
That's
so it's
fine.
$15 right now.
That's fine. It saved me a trip out. Well, the theater would have cost you 10 or more.
I sneak in.
Okay.
I loved it. Go see it. Good job, Bong.
Bong.
I think I've seen that before.
Well, you haven't yet. Maybe you have. I don't know.
It's like he's talking to us from the dead.
Boom. Yes, that is...
It's Mike Ghost.
Boom. The review of Parasite.
Go see it.
Yep, go check it out. You know, we were in here in the break talking, and I got one of the Mike Love witticisms of, the heart wants what the heart wants, Corby.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do miss telling you to shut the F up. Like, really miss that.
Well, I only say because I get that kind of thing so much from you.
When he lovingly looks at you.
Well, Mike.
The heart wants what the heart wants. So, people that are tuning in that haven't heard you talk about this outside of your main announcement that you had, which, by the way, did you ever imagine that the main thing that we would take out of that are the 38 footsteps of you walking down the hall? That's the one drop that we pull from this badass retirement announcement.
That's the best thing about it. That's the thing about it that I like the most.
And we just assumed you got lost.
What are you doing? Well, I did kind of just fade into black.
By the way, side note here. So we went to the stock show 3 days ago.
Right.
And you know what a cluster it can be finding that building.
Oh, yeah.
And so Dummy over here, first time.
Yeah, I was a stock show virgin.
He gets there just fine. Everything's cool. And then we leave, and he left at 6:50 to go get his dog so he could drive back to Dallas and get his dog at daycare.
Right.
So he leaves 10 minutes before I close things out, and then I take my time, pack the bag up, go to the bathroom, walk through. I buy some soup at the stock show.
Mm-hmm. Talk to P1s.
Talk to some P1s, walk all the way out, and that's about a 10-minute walk to get back to the car at least.
Right.
Walk back to the car, get in, start the car up. At this time, it's like 7:25 or something like that, and I start to head out of there. And before you hit University, you hit like the southernmost part of the stock show.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm taking that left out of there, who do I see but Dingu rounding the corner? He had been walking around looking for the parking lot for 30 minutes.
I circumnavigated the stock show for, I believe, 1.5 times.
Dude, I feel you on that. It's easy to get all turned around and just knocked sideways in that place like crazy.
And you're just smelling manure.
Yeah.
Like there's no...
Yeah. It was cold. It was raining. I had a 25-pound backpack on me,
God.
and I walked about probably 2.5 miles trying to find my car.
It can happen, man.
So is there anything that you want to add or say on top of, to piggyback off of what you said in your little prepackaged speech to the P1s? Because they're begging for anything, and they want to hear something. I don't know what, but they want to hear something.
Well, let me ask you, is there anything that I left unsaid?
I don't think so.
I think a lot of people want to know when the decision was made, and it's always you've been thinking about it for a few months, but there had to be one of those days where you kind of wake up and say,
no,
the foot down moment where you said, I'm doing this and I'm sticking with it,
right,
and I'm going to let people know that need to know.
It really didn't happen. It did not happen.
You just quit showing up for work?
Yeah, pretty much. It was just a very gradual thing, and I tried really hard to talk myself out of it. I mean, I had very difficult introspective conversations with myself, and I don't like doing that.
Well, we need a recording of those.
Who is this?
Wrong number.
Where are you?
You up?
I'm Mike. I'm Mike. I'm Mike. I'm Mike.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the best.
WYD.
New number. Who dis?
You're my horror.
New number. It's me.
It's you.
What are you doing? God, I will live in infamy forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
it was-
I tried to talk myself out of it, and I just never did. I couldn't.
I think that's the best way to go out. If you can't talk yourself back into it, and it almost sounds like an athlete, that they just and I've heard this before. We've had these dudes on before that they were told by people that were in the same game as them that they would know.
Yeah.
You'll know when
Yeah.
it's time.
Yeah, and like I said in the video, there are a couple of guys that I know in other fields who are like CEOs, far more significant in their field than I am in mine for sure. And they, in the last years, walked away from their gigs. And I had conversations with both of them when I would run into them. And I asked both of them, how did you know, man? And they both told me different versions of the same thing. And that same thing came back to when it's your time, you'll know.
That's really cool that there is some sort of internal mechanism that allows you to realize that.
Now, for a long time, I had no idea what that meant. I thought, okay, when it's your time, you know. Okay, well, how do you know?
Right.
You know?
Did your prostate explode?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a tell in there somewhere.
I think it's just the natural evolution of time, getting older. Like, I feel more wisdom than I did 10 years ago. You
Sure.
just evolve and you know things more and you sense things more. And I bet it's a very similar thing coming to terms with retirement.
Yeah, it probably is. That makes a whole lot of sense. Like I say, I didn't understand what they meant, but there came a time when I just had some sort of epiphany, and all of a sudden I knew perfectly what they meant. I knew exactly what they were talking about.
And you know what's funny is that I think it was in that video. I can't remember, but it was in one of those pieces where you were talking about a year ago over Christmas break. And I remember coming back from that break where you had an extended break of, 20 days or something like that.
Right.
And we came back and I was like, man, did you get bored? And you were like, no, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? Because typically you're like, I am ready to get back.
Mm-hmm.
And that may have been the first sign.
Well, you will note that I stopped going on trips.
Yeah.
When we were on vacation over the last few years.
Yeah.
I was kind of giving this a test run then.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
Just flirting with the idea, but only in the last, 5-6 months did it get really serious.
Yeah. And I wonder, too, because just the and that is the test run of you're not, you're going to travel, you're going to do stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
But in your head, you're like, can I take this for 20 days straight of just being here? Because the majority of your life is still going to be here, right?
Yeah, right.
You're not moving.
No.
You'll be here
I'm not
till
planning on it.
Yeah,
anyway.
you'll be here till you check out.
Yeah, I probably will.
Wow.
I'm probably a lifer.
214 for life, bro.
That's right.
Boy, you got to get that tattoo.
Man, I do.
On your forehead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what you need.
And maybe a little teardrop down the cheek.
Right. So have you missed anything up here? Do you, miss the day-to-day of it or any of this mess?
Not yet.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I'll get to that point where I do.
Like,
I missed you guys.
What about, yeah. What about like the Astro story? Because I immediately thought of you.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay,
God,
maybe
yes.
I need to talk about this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anything you need to say about that while you're here?
Those cheating bastards.
Mike Fires is a hero. He's kind of getting torched in some circles out there, but by God, Mike Fires is a hero. That is a stud.
We go on these road trips all the time, and that's when because I don't see you every day. I'm off at noon, and you're here for the afternoon show. But when we went on the road, and all the chaos that was on the road always involved us three.
Yeah.
Other people may have been involved every now and then, but the base.
Yeah, the linchpins were us.
No question about it. So this first road trip without you is going to be really strange.
Yeah, it's true because Bob and Dan, they don't
don't
party.
go out.
No,
Dunham and Miller, they got to get up too early.
George will hang if it's an East Coast.
So
he
we'll
may
see
hang
him a little more in
bit.
Miami.
That's true.
And then every now and then he'll say, you know what, I'm doing it tonight, even if it's West Coast, and he'll hang. But it's not all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time it was us three getting into total
Shenanigans.
messes.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I am going to miss that totally.
It will be.
Yeah, smoking cigarettes on the patio and stuff.
It's going to be really weird in Miami, too, because there is so much history in Miami.
Oh, there is.
That was my first Super Bowl road trip, 2007 in Miami.
Dude.
And that was the jumping off of the bridge into the canal.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was offered the money first because you knew I wasn't going to do it.
Right.
And then Grego jumped.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Then that's when it started. That was a hell of a night, man.
Do you think of the Mavs championship first when you think of Miami? Or do you think of the Super Bowl?
I think of Stephanie Hernandez first when I think of
Yeah, he thinks of me bumming cigarettes from girls.
That was her name?
Yeah.
He knows her name.
Yes.
Stephanie Hernandez.
So
That's
registered in him
That's
that he
right.
remembers her. Stephanie Hernandez.
And the thing I think most about it is there he is, very surreptitiously, so I won't see it.
Hiding it from you.
Bumming a cigarette from her.
This is not. I was freely smoking.
I don't believe this.
I was doing smoke tricks.
I believe him.
Okay,
not
go
you.
ahead.
Well, no, he kind of was. I just wasn't paying too much attention, but I look up and there he is smoking a cigarette.
A cigarette?
Yeah.
Corby.
I look at him. What are you doing, you idiot?
What?
And all of a sudden he starts that goofy laugh and puts it out and everything like that. And here I am reeling from this because
It's shocking.
he is the last guy
Yeah.
that I would ever think of would do anything like that. So he puts it out and everything, I'm kind of ready to move on here. And not 3 minutes later, I look up and he's got another one.
Well, it was the best because I do remember this because the girl turned to me. She was like lighting her cigarettes and she was like, "Do you want another one?" Because she found the whole scene to be very awkward.
Yeah.
Of Mike, like, "What are you doing?" And I think she asked, she's like, "Are y'all related or something? Is he mad at you?" I'm like, No. Hey, I smoke whenever I want. Let me just get that out of the way
playing
first.
it up.
Oh yeah. She's like, "Do you want another one?" I'm like, "Yes, I do."
I would love another cigarette.
And she gave him one, and man.
And then he quit.
Yep. Then he
Cold
quit.
turkey.
Yes.
Then he quit.
Cold turkey. Well, man, thanks for coming up. We talked to you in the break, too, and I'm dead serious about this. When baseball season rolls around, a nice weekly show.
Down.
At your leisure, whenever you want to do it. We don't have to, set it in stone. We can do it whenever we feel like it during the week, or we can nail it down, whatever, but let's definitely do that.
Down with it.
Okay, perfect. There he is on the
Yes.
ticket's 26th birthday.
Yes.
The great
The man.
Mike Rhyner.
Tears.
Thank
Back
you for
at
having
it.
me.
Back at it. Love you, man.
Love you,
boys.
baby.
Yes, sir. Today is a very special day because today is Jan 24, 2020. That means today is the 26th birthday of Sports Radio 1310, The Ticket. And joining us now is the man who farted, fell down, and started the entire radio station. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Rhyner. Well, we're out of time.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
There he is.
What's up, man?
Up next, disaster at sea.
It's going to be 45 minutes of this.
Yeah, can I just sit here and listen to every drop I have in there?
You'll be here for another 3.5 hours.
It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you boys, too.
How we doing?
We're doing all right.
Did you go down to sales?
I did.
Okay, because they issued an edict that we haven't seen Michael yet. Send Michael down. We have to talk to Michael.
Now they're all filing charges.
Right.
No restrictions now, though, right?
Yeah.
You're not under the company umbrella.
That's right. Fair game now.
Yeah, now it's just criminal.
We'll deal with that.
All right, well, before we get into stuff and you and what you're doing and all that and your decision-making process, it is a big day, which I imagine for you, I don't know if you look forward to this day like the day before, I don't know, when you wake up, if you think about it immediately, but it's here. And whenever you do wake up and your eyes open, it's special.
First thought.
Yeah.
First thought. I always know what day it is. It is on my mind constantly, 2 or 3 days out. And I spend a lot of time just, reminiscing on the things that were going down and the days leading up to it and just how hectic and how crazy and what a thin line we were all walking just to get the thing up and running. And then there was the exhilaration of 6 o'clock that morning and the medic, Dr. Bay, on the air.
The medic.
And we are finally up and running.
Describe your feelings that day 26 years ago, because you have the radio on 6 a.m. ready to have this thing going, but you spend so much time beforehand getting it done. So
did you sleep?
That's what I want to know, right? At what time you woke up? And
I didn't sleep.
So did you stay up at the station, or
no? I went home and tried to sleep, but never did.
After closing down Louis.
You know me a little bit too well, don't you?
Takes one to know one, brother.
Yeah, it does. It does. About 4 o'clock, I got out of bed and went up there I didn't have anything particularly to do or anything like that. I just wanted to be there. Just wanted to see what was going on, see how chaotic and out of hand things were going to be, because we were playing the loop.
Oh, yeah.
And had been all weekend.
Right.
The loop over and over and over again.
Was that 72 hours or 48 hours?
Yeah, that was. I think it started on maybe Friday, but at least Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And the loop was going, and at 6 o'clock, they were going to hit the switch or whatever they did in that room, and boom, we're off.
How many of y'all were up here when 6 a.m. rolled around? Well, I mean, was it like all hands on deck?
No, it wasn't all hands on deck. I know I was there. Spence Kendrick was there. Spence was the big guy, and Jeffrey Dunbar was there, and we were all in the other production room listening. And when 6 o'clock rolled around and the medic took the airwaves and said all that stuff that he said, we were just looking at each other and going, "Man, we effing did it."
At the very least, you could say that you made it on the air.
Yes, we made it on the air.
Right.
Now, we had no idea of the chaos that would ensue within a matter of minutes after that, but we did, by God, make it on the air, and nobody thought we would even do that.
What was the chaos? What happened?
Name it.
Well, they started off, so this was Super Bowl week.
Yes.
Yeah, this was Super Bowl week, but everybody hadn't gone yet. Everybody was still on site. But you had a situation where, try to picture this. Let's say somebody came in here and bought the wolf and didn't move them out right away.
Oh, yeah.
Where you would have 2 radio stations under different ownership sharing the same site. And that's essentially what was going on. Because across the hall, there was KZPS. And we sorely, sorely underestimated what it took to get a radio station up and running. I mean, just the stuff you need that we didn't have.
Right. And weren't y'all like stealing stuff from
we
Cactus
were.
Pryor and the OD and guys like that?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I knew all those guys, and I could go over there and say, "Hey, man, come on, give me a little love here.
Can I have your stapler?"
Yeah. And most of them would sneak me whatever they possibly could. And a few days later, the clamps got put on all that, so we were kind of on our own. But, man, it was just so incredibly chaotic that first day, that first week. The other thing was that we bought a terrible, terrible signal. If you think 1310 sounds bad now, you should have heard it then.
Oh, you had to be in certain areas to pick it up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was awful.
Yeah, but it was the only one we could possibly get. You know, if we didn't get that, then we're down to 770, 990, one of those others where you are literally rumored to be broadcasting.
Yeah.
Was that just a straight tower issue and you guys were able to bolster up its power later on?
Man, it was everything. I don't think they had done any kind of maintenance to that transmitter in years. I mean, it was just a mess.
And for people who don't know, what was your time slot that first day?
We were on from 11 to 2.
Yeah, you and the Hammer 11 to 2. Kurt Menefee was on 9 to 11, and then Dunham and Miller 2 to 5, and then Coop 5 to 7 or 5 to 8.
5 to 8.
5 to 8. Okay. And so when you're, that's the thing is you're trying to get a radio station up. Like you have the fish you are frying are large, but you have a show to do. Were you nervous about the show or nervous about the station, or did it all just run together?
It all ran together. I mean, I truly learned how to compartmentalize from that.
Amen, brother.
There you know what I'm talking about, don't you? When you're on the air, you were on the air, you think about that, you try not to get distracted. But that was kind of hard because a lot of the time when we were on break, somebody would come in there and say, hey, this is going on or that's going on or we don't have this, we don't have that. Where's this? Where's that?
Yeah.
So my compartmentalization efforts were somewhat thwarted, but over time, I learned how to do it. And, when I was not doing that, then you turn attention to other stuff. But when you're on the air, you're on the air. And I quickly learned that I wanted to be on the air really, really bad.
Yeah, get away from that other stuff.
Get away from that other stuff.
You guys,
I want to ask one question about that. At what point were you able to relinquish or most of your administrative responsibilities and just focus on the show?
Probably about, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks in, something like that.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, but it's still, I'm sure that had to have seemed like 6 years.
Eternity.
God. I mean, talk about a whole different outlook on life once that happened.
And you don't, you're a notorious, horrible sleeper. You must have not slept hardly at all for 3 months.
It wasn't quite as bad then as it is now,
yeah.
Thank God. But it was still pretty bad. It was still really rough.
Did you get middle of the night phone calls as far as putting out fires and things?
Yes.
Literally.
Yeah.
Hey, the station's on fire.
Yeah. Or we're off the air. And the other thing was, one thing that I really didn't know anything about, or not enough about anyway, was how to hire an engineer. And the guy we hired that we brought on board was the only one I could get because we didn't have enough money to pay a really good one. And that's one thing about engineers. If you ever find yourself in the position of having to hire an engineer, they will demand a lot, and they will get it too.
But you guys couldn't pay them.
Yeah.
So basically nothing's changed in 26 years.
Yeah, essentially.
Is this when you got the wisecracker?
No, the wisecracker came along. He was not there on day one. He came along a little bit later on. And, man, I'll tell you, that guy was a godsend.
Yeah.
Because, number one, he knew what he was doing, which the other guy did not. And all the other guys that we talked to in between, they were either real sketchy or we just didn't get the right vibe from them, or they wanted too much money. We couldn't give them. Well, we somehow landed the wisecracker. And this is Tim
Did you
Walker.
name him, by the way?
Oh, yeah. I named
wisecracker.
I named it that because he wanted to get involved. He didn't want to be on the air or anything like that, but he really liked the fact that we all like to have fun. And when he would be out on remotes with us, he liked to have fun too. He would join in, and he was all the time, getting involved and inserting himself. And he was actually funny.
Yeah, I remember him being very funny.
Yeah, I mean, we liked him,
Does he still have those stations out in, is it Graham?
Yeah.
Somewhere out west of Fort Worth?
He does. I had lunch with him in the last year.
Okay.
And, he's still got those stations. And he still listens, and he's probably very well aware that we're talking about him right now.
Do you remember, or I'm sure people that were there do, and I know Gordon was on the show, was on Skip's show as like an intern, right? Is that right? Something like
Gordon?
that?
Yeah.
He had something going on.
Yeah, but Gordon was trying to gain a toehold any way he could.
Sure.
And he would insert himself into the big middle of anybody's show. He was up there all the time.
Oh, he had nothing else to do.
No, he didn't.
Nothing.
He didn't. And he had clearly seen that if he was ever going to make his way through this world in anything at all meaningful, it was going to be through this. And he stayed up there all hours, day or night. He would jump on anybody's show, and, he was Gordon. He thought nothing about walking in there and shooting the wheels off of anything, just like now,
Do you guys remember, though, like, speaking of him and being on that show, I imagine, like, when you did open the phones up and you gave the phone number out, and I imagine you're all staring.
By the way, 787-1310.
Yes, please. I remember, I guess you guys were all probably gathered around the little computer screen or whatever, seeing if the phones would ring.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
and then when they did, you're like, oh, my God.
Yeah, we
oh
were.
My God,
we have at least one listener.
Yes.
But, yeah, the phones were there that very first day. That was true exhilaration because I'd wondered whether or not people were going to know what to do with this. But as things turned out, we found out that most people had heard sports radio in other markets because by that time, this was only one of the very few markets of any substance that didn't have it yet. But people had, traveled in other parts of the world and that heard it there, and they heard how it works, and they knew what to do that first day.
And you did have Randy, on BAP, because he did take calls.
Yeah.
In the evenings.
They did. Yeah, but...
And then you had the Brad Sham thing.
Yeah, and there was sports. It was around here, but as far as it being a round-the-clock thing, that's what we were wondering. Would anybody be ready for something that had been relegated to 6 o'clock at night?
Or Norm in the morning.
Or Norm in the morning until he came on. When he came along, if they would be ready for that all the time.
Dude, I remember being in school and at whatever... thinking how weird it was at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock being able to listen to people talk about sports. It was the weirdest, greatest thing ever. Like cranked up in my apartment, and reverberating through the house, listening to Kurt talk about sports. How long did it take before you hated the Cowboys? Like the second caller? Hey, Mike, look, man, what's going on with Barry? And were you just out about then?
I'd had it by then.
Right.
Oh, I'd so had it on the Cowboys by then.
2 calls.
2 calls in, man. The anti-Cowboy faction was up and running.